Hi everyone, I'm Karin. Welcome to Meal and Heal. Today I'm pretty excited to share with you an interview that I did with Dr. Stella Park, naturopathic doctor and medical intuit. She's a dear friend of mine that I've known for many years, and she shared her stories and her insights today on the courage to change. And because she has a busy schedule, I did have to do the interview earlier this morning. So I'm going to play a clip for you of the entire interview. So sit back and enjoy Stella's information that she generously shares with us while I show you this clip. Hi, Stella. I wanted to welcome you to my show today and thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, Karin. It's good to be here. It's good to see you too.
Thank you. Our topic today is the courage to change, and I thought you would be the ideal guest for this. I've known you for over 30 years, and you've been one of my dearest, closest friends. We did our clairvoyant training together 30 years ago, and when I think of people who have mustered up the courage to change, I think of you, and that's why I asked you to be a guest on my show today.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And yeah, we've gone through so many changes together. So and I'm so grateful. I'm just so grateful that we've been friends all these years, Karin.
Well, you're a pretty spectacular woman, and I would love it if you could just take a minute and tell my audience a little bit about what you do and what you practice.
Okay. I'm a naturopathic doctor, and it's basically my third career. So I became a naturopathic doctor in 2011, and it's 4.5 years of medical school. So right now in my practice, so I had a long practice of doing intuitive medicine, I would call it, where I did readings, I did healings. As you know, we learned all these different modalities. And then once I became a naturopath, I learned how to incorporate that more into my practice. Because as a naturopathic doctor, we look at everything very scientifically, very similar to like a MD. But instead of looking at just what the symptoms are, we look at what the root cause is. So I use my intuition with that, especially because a lot of times the root cause is an emotional or an energetic block. And so that's how I use my intuition in my practice.
That's so exciting. And I love the premise of that, treating the entire body, all four bodies, the physical body, emotional body, mental body, and spiritual body together, because that's really the only way we're going to have sustainable healing.
Yeah, I actually went to a conference about a month ago, and a guy who was presenting said, I really feel the future of medicine is energy medicine. I was like, yes, that is so true. That is exactly right. Because everything starts with an energy.
Well, I wanted to mention that you have this extraordinary ability, having been a well-trained clairvoyant. This ability of yours to see inside the body is so helpful. And I'm aware that there are a lot of people out there that call themselves medical intuits that are using a lot of their feeling energy and sensing energy, but I know that you have the ability to really look inside a body and be able to tell where the energy is stuck. And for me, that's such a great way to help facilitate a very accurate and precise healing.
Yeah, I think one thing that a lot of people have a misconception with medical intuition is that you would be able to look at somebody and say, oh, you have 3 cancer nodules in your neck. And clairvoyance is an art. Medicine is an art. And an art means that there's a lot of variables, and it takes a type of understanding. It's like a conglomeration of feelings, seeing, knowing that person's history. And so I think that's why it took me a while to get that into my practice more.
Well, speaking of your practice, what do you think are some of the biggest blocks to change that you encounter in your practice?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is that people, it's change is hard. People are where they're at because it's comfortable in a way, even though they might not be comfortable physically. There's structures in place that they have become habituated to. So to make a change, like to really drastically change your diet, a lot of people have a hard time with that. It would disrupt their family. It would take more planning. It would take more effort on their part.
What do you find that it takes to make a change, both with yourself and with your clients?
Well, I think first of all, there's got to be an impetus. And so for some people, it's pain. For some people, it's aging. For other people, it's like a serious medical condition or a wake-up call. Like they'll get a call from after a breast exam, they'll be like, oh my God, they found a lump. Suddenly they're motivated. I know for me, like a huge change that I went through, and you see, I don't know if you can see this, but I have some butterflies behind me.
Yes.
And so that's in my office because, butterflies, they go through a massive transformation. And so I had been in a place in my life, I was married. I thought I was happily married, but things weren't as good as they could have been, I'm sure. But I was sick. I was actually very unhappy. And I didn't realize it until I made a shift. But at that time, I just knew something had to really change. And to validate that, I got a astrological chart reading, and the astrologer literally said to me, you have to change or you're either going to get very, very sick or you're going to die. And I was like, well, maybe it's time for a change. And it took a lot of courage because I had to dismantle my life from I had to rent out my home. He's now my ex-husband, but he didn't want to come with me, so I had to leave my relationship.
Excuse me, come with you where?
To Canada, because I found a naturopathic medical school in Canada that really made sense for me. And I had been living in California, so I was going to need to move to Toronto, Canada.
Which is a long way away.
And so, there has to be this impetus. And so my impetus was wanting a more authentic life, doing work that really interested me and I was passionate about. The courage came with having to be willing to let go of my old patterns and go into a situation where I completely new. And so the way I relate this to clients is that most of their changes are not that drastic, but sometimes they're really attached to a certain lifestyle thing. Like an example might be they love to come home and have 2 glasses of wine every night, but they're having all these problems. And after going through their case and different like supplements or herbs or lifestyle changes, and something's not changing, they might have to give up that wine. And then they might have to face that they're either addicted to it or that it's masking their unhappiness in their relationship at home, or you see what I mean? So it takes a certain amount of courage to be able to face those things and then to make a change.
Well, when you talk about overcoming courage, how does that tie in with motivation? How do you get yourself motivated? And how is that motivation different from inspiration?
Well, when I look at inspiration is like what happened to me. I took a class in naturopathic medicine. A lady came in the middle of the class, because it was a 10-week course, and in the middle, she was a guest speaker, and she was talking about how in her state, naturopathic medicine was not licensed. So the way she practiced, she said, I have a spiritual based practice. And it was like, I heard angels singing. Do you know what I mean? It was like,
Absolutely.
and I mean, I was so inspired. I just felt like, oh my God, I have to figure out how I can make this happen. So that to me is inspiration. Motivation is when you have a goal and you break it down and you go, I know I can do it, and you push yourself forward one step at a time, one step at a time. And it's like keeping your eyes on the goal. And because you can get lost in those little steps or discouraged because things can change, or not change the way you want them to, or you might have a bad day or whatever, but then you just get back on that track. So motivation is having that persistence, saying, I know I can do it, and remembering the inspiration, remembering what the end goal is going to be, remembering that you want to get to a different place.
Thank you. You brought up a good point that I really like to focus on, and that is the simplicity of taking it one step at a time. One of the things that I was just talking about 2 weeks ago on Kneel and Heal was how important it is to stay in present time or in the moment. And that was in regards to relationships. But in our health and our wellness, absolutely one step at a time. I'm just thinking of the path that I've taken with my nutrition over the years, and how it took a long time to do it in a natural way. Mm-hmm. And but the results have been very sustainable, and I did have to take it just one step at a time. It was a very long, slow process, but so I like that you are keeping that in mind with your whole practice, like one step at a time, being right.
Well, the way you make a new habit is you have to create those new neural pathways, because we have these neural pathways in our brain, and I'm just going to call them habits, and they're well worn. And so your whole system just goes on those. It's a lot like how driving home from wherever you're at, you know how to get home. You've driven that way a million times. You don't even think about it. Sometimes you get home, you don't even remember driving, So it's the same with the neural pathways, doing it until you have a new track. You can never erase the old track, but you can create a new one.
That's really good news, because if that's true, then that essentially means that at any point in your life, you can change.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It gets a little bit harder, I think, when your grooves are so deep. And your investment in those grooves, because like I said, it does take, the deeper those grooves, you kind of got to climb your way out. So.
Can you share with us, perhaps maybe off the top of your head, can you think of a case where your medical intuition really helped in a way that perhaps traditional medicine may not have helped this particular patient?
Well, because of patient confidentiality, I really can't talk about any cases, but I can give like an example of something that might happen.
Okay.
So let's say that somebody comes in and I take in their history, but I see that there's like a dark spot in their heart chakra. There's some, but that person might be very closed off, or they're not in touch with that level. Mm-hmm. And so what can happen is that, especially after I develop a relationship with that person, I can bring that up in some ways. And then also through their history, you start to find out things. And so combining the two, so like, let's say a person was married, got divorced, and then something else happened, and something else happened, and then timing wise, that's actually like within 2 weeks of when their back went out, or when they were or then maybe a month later they're diagnosed with cancer, or like suddenly they started having psoriasis, and there's like all this wounding that happened up until that point. And then a lot of habits develop around that to manage the wounding that had happened. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
It might be the wine or too much marijuana or other bad habits, you know.
Mhm.
So people are so interesting and complex. I mean, because we're mind, body, and spirit, and it's so integrated. It's like this, even more. It's like that. So because it's constantly moving. So I like to remember that there was a lady, Imogene Cunningham. Do you know who she is? She was a
Yes.
photographer, yeah.
Yes.
And she started her career when she was 60 years old.
I love that.
And then she had a career that was 30 years long. She was famous for her photographs. She had a boyfriend. He was years younger than her. I mean, I feel like it's never too late. It's never too late.
That's a very inspirational story. That's true. I remember that about her.
Yeah. So, and then, Mitch is our mutual friend,
Yes.
and he loved to tell that story about his great grandfather, who at the tender age of 80 met the love of his life. And they
Oh,
were married for 20 years.
oh my gosh.
I know. And she was 6 years older than him.
Oh,
Isn't that something? So it's never too late. I mean, I feel like that, there's opportunities everywhere.
well, let me ask you, Stella, what do you have cooked up these days? Anything new that you can share with us?
Yeah, actually, I'm very excited about this new thing because one thing I am becoming really aware of is because as a naturopathic doctor, I look for the cause, like what is causing these people's, my patients' problems. And a lot of people who come to see naturopaths, they have very vague issues. I don't feel good. I've got this weird general pain. I'm fatigued. I'm mental fogginess. And I'm becoming more and more interested in the effect of environmental toxins. So I've recently added a new product line to my practice, and it's all clean and safe skincare and cosmetics too. And it's interesting because when you read a label, there's very little truth in advertising in cosmetics. So when you read the label, it might say organic or all natural. Well, arsenic is all natural. So is formaldehyde, and so is
Oh,
lead, right?
mm-hmm,
These are things that are all natural, organic,
mm-hmm.
and those things are very toxic in the body. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is that cosmetics have not really been regulated since about 1938. So if you can imagine how many chemicals now are
Wow.
available, and they're in our skincare products, our hair, makeup, everything. So yeah, I've been really trying to educate my patients about that because people might get well up to a certain point and then they backslide, even though they're doing everything right. And I think it's because they keep reapplying these toxic skincare things.
Oh,
So yeah, so I'm actually added a product to make it easier for my clients. So because otherwise you have to read every label,
right.
and then often these ingredients are disguised as fragrances or like natural spices or something like that, and really they're toxic chemicals. So yeah, I was just talking to a friend yesterday, and she pulled out her sunscreen and she goes, "What do you think?" And I go, "Oh my, throw that out right now." And the chemicals that were in that sunscreen, she bought it. It was for babies because she thought it would be
Oh
safe.
my gosh.
And it was like this very well-known popular brand name. It was for babies, and she had been using it. And when I read the ingredients on there, I'm like, these ingredients actually make you more prone to cancer.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
so I have a blog, and I wrote an article about it. So it's at stellaparknd.com. And if you're interested in any of those skincare products, let me know because I really believe in this company.
Can you be specific? Like, do you have like a regular face cream or a night cream, eye
Yeah,
cream, things like that?
yeah. It's like a full line. So it's shampoo, sunscreen, lotions, body lotions, face stuff, makeup, eyeliner, lipstick,
Ooh,
yeah.
that
I don't
sounds
know.
fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but lead is a very popular ingredient in lipstick. And
I
how,
didn't know that.
yeah, and women eat that all day long. I mean, I mean,
Oh
if they
my
really,
gosh.
right? And then you reapply it and then you eat more of it.
Right. And we don't even think about it. And I
You
have to
don't think
say,
about
I'm a
it.
huge cosmetic consumer, especially being in front of the camera. I have to wear very heavy makeup.
Yeah,
And I I don't check the makeup to see
yeah.
what's in it, but I can tell you that on days that I wear camera makeup because it's heavy, like theater makeup, that
Mhm.
I have a tendency to have a lot more breakouts the next day than just wearing light makeup. So I know there are things in the makeup that don't sit right with my skin.
Yeah, yeah. I know. A lot of the ingredients cause like hyper allergic reactions. So it makes sense that you break out, or somebody might get a headache, or their eyes will water, something like that.
Wow. Think about that, ladies out there, that you could be using a cosmetic that could give you a headache, and you might think
Yeah,
just from having a bad day.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then a lot of the ingredients, the chemical ingredients are estrogen mimickers, and that estrogen is a growth hormone. So that's why a lot of companies now are saying no phthalates and no parabens, and but there's plenty of people out there who are still using that stuff.
Well,
It's
that
really buyer beware.
thank you very much for sharing that with me and with everybody today, because I think that's a very important thing to have an awareness of, is
Yeah,
all of the pollutants that we are getting, and that some
yeah,
of them actually come from our own cosmetics.
totally. Just our skin lotion, and our skin is basically our largest organ of the body, and then we just slather it with these chemicals. So yeah, if anybody's interested, just reach out to me, and I'd be glad to share more.
Okay. I have one last question for you. So, what do you think you would do as a suggestion for somebody who wants to change something in their life?
I would say look at your why, so that becomes your touchstone. Because let's say that your why is, well, my husband wants me to do it. Sometimes that works, but most of the times that might not be enough. Or let's say that your kids want you to quit smoking. That's not going to be enough. You're going to have to look at what's your real why to give up smoking, or to give up alcohol, or to change your diet, or to really stick with like a health plan. And you always have to go back to your why. I want to feel good so that I can go dancing again. I want to feel attractive so I can fall in love again. I want to quit smoking so that I can watch my kids grow up and I'm not the one hacking up hairballs in the corner. So it becomes really important to come back to your why. Why are you doing it? What do you want to create? And when you can use that as your touchstone, then when you're sitting there going, oh my gosh, I would die for a cigarette right now, then you go, wait, I want to be the one who's not hacking up, my lung at my son's wedding. I don't want to be the lady who's attached to an oxygen tank when she's 65. So think about what you really want to create. I want to be the one who's got enough energy and vitality to dance at my daughter's wedding and like have a great time. So those kind of whys, yeah.
Thank you. You mentioned something in the whys, and I'm just going to insert a little fun fact about Stella right now because she's one of my oldest friends. And people out there might not know this about you, but Stella is a phenomenal dancer. And I can remember when we were in our 20s going out and going dancing, and we used to have so much fun. And Stella can bust a move, I'm telling you. This girl can really shake it.
Oh
We
my
had a lot of
gosh.
times together. All right. Well, I'm going to have to wrap the interview up, which I hate to because you're fascinating to listen to. And before I do know that you offer a 15-minute free consultation over the phone. So if
Yes.
you could just talk a little bit about that and let my viewers know what that phone number is, that would
Okay.
be great.
Yeah. So what I do is I offer a free 15-minute consult for people who have a question or they're looking at for a naturopath. They want to see if I'm the right person for them, or they're like wondering what their next step might be in their healing process. And what people do is they go to my website, which is Stella Park, N as in Nancy, D as in David.com. And there's a link on there about making an appointment. And they just click on that link and it takes them to my scheduler and they just book themselves in for a 15-minute consult. And then what I do is I will call that person at the time that they make the appointment.
That's fantastic. So
Yeah.
easy. So any of you interested in having a consult with Stella, please go ahead and follow through with giving her that call. And I have to wrap things up, Stella, and I just want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to join me on Kneel and Heal today for Courage to Change. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Wow, good stuff. I wanted to show Stella's contact information for all of you so that if any of you are interested in getting a free consult from her and finding out more about the many, many different services Stella offers, this information is right here. It's Dr. Stella Park ND. Her phone number is 510-277-7428, and she can be found at stellaparknd.com. Well, we're back. Thank you so much for joining me. Oh gosh, I just love listening to Stella. She's got so much information and it's just fascinating to hear what she's working on and what she's always cooking up. I hope you enjoyed that interview about finding courage to change. And usually we do a quick meditation in Kneel and Heal, but since I wanted to play the whole interview for you and not have to chop it up, we're going to skip the meditation today. However, I will be filming one after I'm done here with Kneel and Heal, so I'll post that on the YouTube site so that you can also do a very simple meditation on courage to change. I hope you really enjoyed this program today. Next week on Kneel and Heal, our topic is going to be courage to speak your truth. Good stuff. So I can't wait to do that. Now, before I go, I'd like to at least show you my, let's see here, my offer for May. And it's part of the closing offer. And what I'm going to be doing is offering a 30-minute healing session to taking your next step. So that's one way that or an expression I use for being able to find courage. Really, what are we looking for in courage? And what we're really trying to do is to clear the energy so that we can take our next step, because it's the foreign energy that builds up on our next step that causes us to go into fear or resistance or anger, many different emotions. So this meditation that I'll be posting later on YouTube is about how to clear that in a really simple way. So I think you'll enjoy that. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next Thursday. Here's my specials, and then I'll close out.